Football can be quite a dangerous game. With its rules and aggression, there are several injuries that we've seen on the playing fields, but rarely do they get to the point of severity. There are, of course, investigations launched if something looks fishy, and the same is the case for the topic of this video. NFL investigation has now officially launched into a medical decision of wobbly Miami Dolphins star Tua Tagovailoa. Let's talk more, starting off with the bad decision. So a player hit his head while playing a game. You think that's going to be dangerous, right? Well, turns out his back stole the thunder and became a bigger issue. But either way, neither did the head win nor the back because he was eventually cleared to return and played through it all. And that's caused quite a few problems for the Miami Dolphins, as fans and critics wonder what led to the decision to let him play despite seeing that he'd just been injured. When his team was playing against the Buffalo Bills and winning, Tagovailoa, for a brief while, actually left the game. The victory was 21-19 against the Bills on Monday, but he returned even though he looked much disoriented by what his team had previously called a head injury. He missed his team's last 3 snaps of the first half, but then very surprisingly returned and played the rest of the way as the Dolphins defeated the Bills and became the AFC's last unbeaten team by knocking off the Buffalo team. Even though fans and critics were quite happy with the win, Tagovailoa's return did raise some questions. But why would it? Everyone actually previously thought he'd been badly injured, but it turns out his managers and the team representatives just sent him back on the field without any further checkups by a professional. Sure, they might have thought that it wasn't so serious, despite him looking what fans called disoriented throughout the game. That doesn't sound like something the NFL would tolerate, so obviously this has caused them to investigate the matter. Next up, concussion consequences. Any person with knowledge of the game and the league would know that this move was gonna and should have some consequences. But there was this one person with knowledge of this specific case who said that after the game, there would be a joint review by the NFL and the National Football League Players Association about what went into the decision to allow Tagovailoa to even return to the game. This person spoke to the Associated Press on one condition, anonymity, because that particular probe wasn't revealed to the public. The team also got criticized by noted concussion expert and neuroscientist Chris Nowinski, who labeled the team's excuse as BS on social media. You know that by NFL rule, those in-game evaluations when concussions are suspected involved not just the team medical personnel, but also an unrelated neurotrauma consultant. Apparently, that didn't happen. Mike McDaniel, the Dolphin coach, said that he was kind of with everyone else. When he hit his head on the ground like everyone else, he also thought it was a head injury. But then his legs got wobbly because his lower back was completely loose, and as Tagovailoa described, his back had become like Gumby or something. That's never a good sign, is it? And despite his wobbly legs and Gumby back, Tagovailoa completed 13 of his 18 passes for 186 yards, along with a touchdown for the Dolphins. Talk about dedication. Moving on, bent out of shape. While watching the game, you might have thought that his almost bad day was because of a late hit by Buffalo's Matt Milano, but it actually came earlier than you assumed. It was on a play where Tagovailoa got bent awkwardly, and he also commented on the situation that on the screen made all of us cringe. He said he kind of got his legs caught under someone, and they were trying to push back, and it felt like he hyperextended his back, and that wasn't enough. Then on the next play, he kind of hit his back, and it hurt, but he got up, which turned out to be a bad decision because that's when he stumbled and his back locked up on him. Tagovailoa also wasn't the only quarterback that got banged up during the Bills-Dolphins game. These players had to play in 90-degree heat, which felt even hotter when you factor in the 57% humidity. Josh Allen, Buffalo's player, needed an x-ray after the game on his hand after he hit on the helmet, or maybe a face mask, in the final moments. He wasn't sure what hit him, but it wasn't serious because Allen didn't have any protection on his hand after coming out of the x-ray room. So things did heat up during the game, not just weather-wise, but also physically. Following that, the trippy twist. The energy was high during the game despite any heat, and as Tagovailoa faced a 3rd and 3 play from the Miami 21 late in the half, he twisted and found Jalen Waddle for an 8-yard gain. After he released the ball, Tagovailoa got hit by a 2-hand push in the chest by Milano. Don't worry, he was flagged for roughing the passer, but the damage had been done, and Tagovailoa fell backward as the back of his helmet bounced off the grass. He stayed down for a few seconds, then rolled to his feet, jogged forward a few steps, and tripped to the ground again for a short time. That's when a couple of offensive linemen held him up, making sure that he would fall down again, and the Dolphins medical personnel hurried onto the field to check up on him more. Then they walked him off the field into the tunnel that led directly to the Miami locker room. Lastly, he's fine. Tagovailoa kept insisting that he was okay and said that he'd passed whatever concussion protocol they had and he's doing good. Tagovailoa was replaced by Teddy Bridgewater for the 3 plays he missed. There was a reason Bridgewater was benched, and that's because he attempted 2 passes, failing completely on both of them. But after he returned on the first play of the second half, Tagovailoa found Tyreek Hill for a 22-yard gain and displayed no unpleasant effects from the hit. And when the Dolphins got the go-ahead score on on a run by Chase Edmonds. Halfway through the fourth quarter, Tagovailoa jumped into the air and didn't look like the injury limited him at all. But of course, he had been injured despite what he said because he wore a wrap around his back after the game and will probably face a lot of treatment in the coming days. He's going to play against Cincinnati on Friday and said that even though he enjoys his time for now when he doesn't have to play, he said that it's a quick turnaround and that he's got to move quickly. For now, he said that he's worried about his back and would be getting some testing on his back. Now that we have learned everything there was to learn about the ongoing investigation into the medical decision on Tua Tagovailoa, let's move on and talk about some other related NFL news. Oh yeah, one of them is again an injury. Gosh, these people need to be careful. Other related news. We begin with Buffalo Bills' Micah Hyde suffers season-ending neck injury. Injuries have been happening in the NFL, and now the Buffalo Bills will have to mount to the Super Bowl challenge without Micah Hyde, who's one of their top defensive players because he suffered a season-ending neck injury when he played against the Tennessee Titans on Monday. Jack Bekta, Hyde's agent, also confirmed the news on Twitter and said that, fortunately, they're expecting a healthy return for him in 2023. When he suffered the injury in the third quarter, he walked off the field first, but then, when they saw that it looked serious, they carted him into the locker room. Next up, Tom Brady's bad call and injured mates. Brady's a huge star, no doubt, but that doesn't mean that he alone can win against 11 other players, right? The Week 3 offense of Tampa Bay was pretty terrible. Mike Evans served a one-game suspension, Chris Godwin out-nursed a hamstring injury, and Julio Jones again sat with a knee injury. And what could Brady do when his offensive line had weakened so badly? Brady had no other option but to get the ball out fast and pray for his targets to gain yards after the catch, which worked for a while. But then Packers got a 14-3 lead through halftime, and Brady had to try to hold the ball for deeper throws. That was bad news for him and cost them the match. Lastly, the Saints offense is all out of sorts. We learned this week that the Saints offense is pretty bad still, even though the two-time All-Pro Michael Thomas returned from an injury that kept him out all of the 2021 season when they signed the veteran Jarvis Landry in the offseason. It was supposed to bring a dependable option beneath for a fit Jameis Winston. Even that didn't happen. The Saints offensive line has looked overwhelmed against any kind of competition this whole season, starting in Week 1 against the defense of Dean Pease's Falcons. And that's it from our side today. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you have any questions or thoughts about Tagovailoa's injury and NFL's investigation, let us know in the comments below. See you in the next one.